The Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show is sponsored by Accunet Mortgage, an equal housing lender, NMLS ID 255368, and Accunet Realty Advisors, which is a separate company from but still affiliated with Accunet Mortgage.
Putting a roof over your head without the headache. Get answers to all of your home buying questions. This is the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show with Brian Wickert on 620 WTMJ.
And our Sunday best to you. Welcome to the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show. I'm Steve Kettler, along with Accunet Mortgage and Accunet Realty Advisors, owner and president Brian Wickert, and licensed millennial loan consultant David Wickert. As always, if you have a question, you can reach us at 414-799-1620 or throughout the Midwest on the Accunet Mortgage toll-free talk line. That number's 1-800-877-1620. So from the front lines of mortgage lending, we're looking right at a duplex deal here, huh?
Out of the gates, we've got a great duplex story. I had a duplex person that I was working with this week, so did David. And so we thought, you know what, we hardly ever talk about duplexes, and I think a lot of folks started out their home buying experience buying a duplex. Why not? You get somebody else to help you make the mortgage payment. That other unit. So I got an introduction from some satisfied customers to a single woman whose income consists of $1,800 a month in Social Security disability income and $350 a month from a pension. So that is a grand total of $2,105 or $50 a month, or just under $26,000 a year. That is not a lot of money.
Does she pay income tax on any
No,
of that?
she does not. In fact, she doesn't even have to file an income tax return at that income level. And so that's kind of a challenge. Like, great, you want us
limited?
Yeah, help you buy a home. By the way, though, here's her real problem. She's already spending, are you ready, $1,050 per month in rent.
Wow.
Think about that. Almost exactly half of her income goes to rent.
Yeah.
So that's why she's motivated. So to her credit, this woman's a smart cookie. She figured out that, hey, if I can buy a duplex and get somebody else to, pay me, let's say, $800 a month, I could afford a $1,500 payment because my net cost of living here would then be $1,500 minus the $800 rent.
Sure.
It'd be $700.
Yeah.
That's a big reduction, $350 a month for somebody on that kind of a limited income. So the challenge became then, all right, can we as mortgage people figure out how she could buy a duplex, not use up her entire $50,000 of life savings, by the way. Mm-hmm. So it was like, also, please do this while minimizing my down payment, and get her into a duplex. Okay, so she's also on the ball and knows that if she can buy in Waukesha County, her property taxes will be lower, and so
for sure
that'll be taking up less room in her, let's say, $1,500 monthly payment, and she can therefore buy a nicer duplex.
More of that payment can go to mortgage and not property tax.
And not property taxes. So she could buy more house and therefore probably get more rent. Okay, so she's got it all figured out. But here are a couple of challenges. So let's look at what is the market for duplexes. I went online this morning in preparation for the show. And how many total, Steve, we're going to go to you first. How many duplexes do you think there are for sale right now in the multiple listing service in the entire county of Waukesha?
Duplexes for sale.
Do you want me to give you some multiple choices?
Yeah, please.
I'll give you multiple choices. 30, 50, or 100?
30.
David?
50.
31. That is the entire
total
pool. I'm not making this up.
Wow.
And then she wants a nicer one. So let's say for her, that's between 180 and 249. There are 12. So it's not going to take long to look at every single.
Yeah, so last week when we were talking about limited inventory, that's true in the duplex market, too.
Correct. Now, David has a client who wants to buy in Milwaukee County, a duplex, owner-occupied duplex, anywhere from, like the North Shore of Shorewood all the way down on the east side, down into Bayview. And I just looked at Milwaukee County in general. I didn't even narrow it down to that kind of East Coast strip. Oh, you know what? She told me was willing to look in eastern Tosa or Story Hill. And total number of duplexes in her price range, which is between $200,000 and $300,000, there are only 29.
In Milwaukee County?
In Milwaukee County. Duplexes between $200,000 and $300,000, there are only 29. By the way, though, this is surprising. There are 492 duplexes available for sale in Milwaukee County, but almost a third of those are listed for under $30,000.
Oh.
That's kind of shocking.
Yeah.
Okay, and then just to round it off, in case you're thinking, I bet there's some enclave of a lot of duplexes for sale in another county. Nah, Washington County, where you'd have Hartford and West Bend, there are 20 duplexes for sale.
So you're saying if you own a duplex and you're thinking about selling and it looks good, you might have some motivated buyers out there. Multiple motivated buyers out there.
I should take a look at what the demand is, for duplexes, but at any rate, so that's kind of the landscape, is limited supply out there. And when we come back, I'm going to tell you what the financing options are, because this story does have a happy ending for this particular let's call it, she is definitely a low-income home buyer who can really improve her situation. We'll give you the financing options when we come back.
Right here on the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show.
Helping you find a place to call home. This is the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show with Brian Wickert on 620 WTMJ.
Well, we're about a month away from Selection Sunday in the NCAA basketball tournament. We know Wisconsin's likely to be in that, but what about some other state schools? Are any of them on the bubble? Greg Matzik dives in on that topic tomorrow night on Sports Central at 6:15 right here on WTMJ. Brian Wickert is with us, David Wickert with us. We're talking about duplex deals, and when it comes to financing, there's a kind of a variety of flavors there, huh?
There are a wide variety of flavors, and just by the way, in all cases, if you're buying an owner-occupied duplex, we can use 75% of the rental income from the other unit to help you qualify for the loan. And that's based on either a lease, if there's already a lease in place. Maybe you're buying a duplex and it already has a tenant upstairs.
Sure.
Awesome. Or the appraiser will do a market analysis and say, I think the market rent for this second unit, because it's a 2-bedroom or 1-bedroom or whatever it is blah. And then we get to use 75% of blah, whatever that number is. So that's $800. We can use $600 to add to the person's income.
That's nice.
Okay, so on this woman we're talking about with the disability income, where I said her actual income is about $2,150. If she buys a place that has $800 rent on the other duplex unit, now I can qualify her at $2,750 a month. So keep that in mind. All right, so the three flavors or options we have, assuming most people want a 30-year fixed rate. You can get a Fannie Mae 30-year fixed rate. There are no income limits associated with the standard Fannie Mae program. The loan limit, ready for this, you could buy one heck of a nice duplex because the loan limit is $543,000.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of
huge.
duplex. That's huge.
Yeah.
But the down payment you have to come up with is 15%.
1.5.
1.5.
I was just going to note the duplex limit in Alaska, Guam, Hawaii, and the Virgin Islands, $814,500.
Okay.
So,
So for that
Wow.
one duplex that's on Guam,
right, you can buy the biggest one there.
I'm taking the biggest one. Okay.
Well, but the reason why the down payment is
bigger.
is that because it's a
Fannie Mae thinks it's riskier.
okay.
Yeah, Fannie Mae thinks, duplexes are riskier.
They look at their table and they say, you know what?
more of these default, or hard to believe, because you'd think on the one hand, hey, you got rental income coming in, wouldn't that be safer?
Right.
Kind of help the person if they lost their job. But for whatever reason, and by the way, they ding the pricing. So for the same rate as you would get on a single family, you have to pay an extra point up front, or your mortgage lender has to pay a point because it is a duplex. And so we can increase the rate and absorb that. All right. The best financing, in my opinion, if you meet the income maximums for buying a duplex, is WHEDA, Wisconsin Housing Economic Development Authority. They're a 30-year fixed rate loan. You do have to make a 5% down payment. The income maximum is $73,300 for 1 to 2 person households. If you jump up and you happen to have a child, then that income limit jumps up to like $84,000 and change. They also offer an option where there's no PMI. Okay, but here's the reason why this wasn't the good fit for our low-income single woman trying to buy a duplex. Their maximum debt-to-income ratio is 45%. By the way, the rental income from the second unit also counts against you when determining if you make, what's the word I'm looking
Eligibility.
for? Eligibility income, right. So if you make if you're getting $800 a month for rental income,
we got to count like that. It's a paycheck.
That's right.
Okay.
To see if you don't make too much money. That's how I was trying to say it.
There you go.
All right. So the winner for this particular customer that I was working with is an FHA loan, because on an FHA loan there are no income limits or minimums. The maximum loan amount in southeastern Wisconsin is substantial, $382,750.
Again, that's a huge.
That's a really nice duplex. I mean, there are duplexes in Whitefish Bay, I'm sure, that go for over $400. And the down payment is, are you ready? A whopping 3.5%. All right. So in our case, remember our challenge was use the least amount of this woman's nest egg.
Yep.
We were able to, reverse engineer this and say, good news, ma'am, you can buy a $200,000 duplex with just $10,000 down. And the reason why this all works is FHA has more liberal debt-to-income ratios. We were able to run her debt-to-income ratio up to 54%, the way that we have to do the math. But still, that allows her to get to her goal. I was so excited.
Reducing her. Yeah.
Her net nut, if she's able to get $800 in rent, is going to be $700, because that payment all equals out to $1,500 a month on the FHA loan, even though the FHA loan has the drawback of having fairly expensive monthly government mortgage insurance. It allows her to check off all the boxes, get the highest priced, be approved for the highest priced duplex, and make it all happen. Okay. When we come back, Steve, let's talk about another topic, condos, and in particular, new construction condos, when we come back.
Right here on the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show on 620 WTMJ.
Expert advice on buying a home. Here's more of the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show with Brian Wickert on 620 WTMJ.
Major League Baseball spring training officially starts this week. Matt Pauley previews the Brewers Cactus League season in Maryvale. And you'll hear that today during Wisconsin's Sports Weekend coming up here at 1:15. Brian Wickert is with us. David Wickert is with us. We're focusing in here on the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Hour here in this segment on condo buying. Maybe in Florida, Minneapolis, here in Milwaukee.
Yep. Anywhere where you're talking, I want to talk particularly about new construction condos. And this came up because I got a call from a longtime repeat customer of ours who's about 5 years away from retiring. And so he and his wife were down here in the greater Naples area shopping for condos. And he's like, okay, I need my rock solid pre-approval, Brian. And I'm like, great. Tell me a little bit about the condo where you're looking. There's
a bulldozer in front. Is that okay?
Yeah. And I played golf down here not long ago at a course that was surrounded by this huge development. It was east of 75, if you're familiar with the area, called Esplande. And really nice golf course. Golf course, I think, has been open for 3 years. Well, they have about 500 homes done, on their way to 1,200 doors, as they call it in the development business.
Wow.
And it's a combination of single-family homes and then condos, okay? And they kind of subdivide these huge things into little neighborhoods. So you might be in the, they got fancy names for them, El Dorado and Coronado and things like that. And so that would be considered a legal phase. All right, so my friend and longtime client is buying in a development where the buildings are 6 townhouse units per building, okay? And then there are maybe 30 buildings in this neighborhood.
Okay.
And so I'm asking him, like, so how far along are these? Oh, they're still building them. They're, halfway done. Okay, that spells you ain't going to get no 30-year fixed-rate loan from Fannie Mae.
Why?
Okay. Well, Fannie Mae looks at these things, and they're concerned over their long history, and boy, did they get burned in Florida earlier, just by the way, during the downturn. What's the viability of this? Because if you're the guy who buys when it's early and halfway done or less, well, and you get in trouble, right? You have to sell your home. You're still competing against the developer. right? The developer still has new units that they're selling. And so it can be tough, especially if the developer starts to get in trouble. Because what are they going to do if they start to get in trouble with that project?
Discount their sales.
Discount the prices or load in more amenities, making it harder for you as the existing homeowner to sell.
Oh.
Okay? So it's kind of this unfair playing field. So Fannie Mae, if you want Fannie Mae financing, they divide the world into existing condos. You know one of those when you see them, right? All the units are built. The developer has sold everything. The developer's out of the deal.
Yeah.
The homeowners association is in charge. The owners are. And let's call that normal. And that's the vast majority of condos that are out there. By the way, if you put 10% or more down and you want a 30-year fixed-rate loan, great. You are going to get a light touch from Accunet Mortgage on behalf of Fannie Mae. It's called a limited review. We just have to make sure the association has the right insurances and a few other minor things, and we're good to go. If you put less than 10% down on an existing, already built condo project, then we're going to give you the full treatment.
Yes.
And we're going to get a copy of the budget. We're going to get a copy of the bylaws, all the other legal documents that went into creating
a longer questionnaire.
A really long questionnaire about, what are the state of affairs there at the association? Because, again, lower down payment means higher risk. Now Fannie Mae is more interested in the health of the association, not just the home buyer.
Right.
Okay? So we got kind of two segments there, existing condos and existing condos with less than 10% down. And then I think when we come back from the 10:30 news here, we'll finish up on this topic and talk about those new construction condos that are almost done versus a long way from being done, and how we help this particular guy with a really clever plan to buy his condo in Naples, Florida, when we come back.
Home buying advice from the guys who know it best. This is the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show with Brian Wickert on 620 WTMJ.
Brian Wickert is with us. David Wickert is with us. We've been kind of talking about maybe condo purchases. A friend of yours that was looking in the Naples, Florida area had an interesting situation, but there's a lot of other options there.
Correct. So the three different, flavors or buckets, let's call it, of condos in the world are existing condos. Hey, they've been built a long time, and the owners own it. The developer's long gone. Those are the easiest to finance, unless you put less than 10% down. I should say, too, it would be terrific if every listing agent of a condo had gathered together all the necessary documents for a prospective buyer who might be putting less than 10% down. We're going to put together a list like that and get it out on the website, but it would be things like the budget, the bylaws, the declarations that created the condo, anything and everything they can put their hands on, but mainly the budget, because the thing that trips up some condo, and the insurance coverages, because we need the insurance coverages on every listing for the association. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of crazy the things we need, but the more people that are aware of what's required in that realm, the better off we'd all be. Because you got to have it if you want a good old 30-year fixed-rate loan. All right, category number 2 are condo projects where they're almost done. And that means that the project or the legal phase, so remember, I was talking about these big developments that are in Florida and elsewhere where they kind of chunk them up into sections. One might be Coronado and the other one might be El Dorado or something like that.
We'll work on your Spanish, okay.
I don't know. I'm stuck in the Spanish realm. But anyway, the legal phase has to be substantially complete, meaning the buildings are built, the roofs are on, the drywall is done in every single unit in the entire legal phase, and all the common elements like the pool house or clubhouse also have to be complete. So if you are in that category and 90% of the units are either under contract,
that's a lot of ands,
or already closed, so we fill out on the questionnaire, hey, there's 100 units in this thing, 50 of them are actually closed, and another 40 are under contract, hey, welcome to the winner's circle. If everything else is substantially complete, now we can give you a regular Fannie Mae loan. So there's the almost done. All right, then there's the third category, which was my friend who's buying in Florida, which is there are bulldozers everywhere. Right. This thing ain't anywhere near being done. And in that case, you'd have to go to a portfolio lender. And we have one. They just don't lend in Florida. But this would work in Chicago or Milwaukee or Minneapolis for us. There, the requirement is that just the building has to be done. Okay, not the entire legal phase. So let's say that we had one like this last summer where the condos were in groups of 4, right? So 4 units per building. And the unit that our subject property was in, all the units were substantially complete, right? They had drywall, they had blah, 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 blah. But there were 2 other 4-unit structures that were still, as they say in the trade, in the ground. They hadn't been built.
Got it.
So that made them ineligible for Fannie Mae financing, but we were able to give this couple a nice 5-year ARM, perfectly normal, except that it's an ARM, it's not a fixed-rate loan, because the portfolio lender will allow just the building, not the whole enchilada, not the whole project, but just the building has to be substantially complete. The other little details where, and this is often in the parlance of mortgage lenders called non-warrantable, meaning you cannot represent, Mr. Lender, that this condo project meets the Fannie Mae rule book. One other difference is the percentage of space in the condo project that can be used for commercial enterprises. So, for example, I have a condo couple in Chicago, first-time home buyers, just issued them the pre-approved, rock-solid pre-approval, and guess what? They wrote an offer last night.
There you go.
There you go. Existing condo, so I'm relieved.
Yes.
10% down, so I'm relieved about that, too, because we won't have to give them the full treatment. But she says, the first floor, I'm supposed to tell you, is all commercial. Stores and stuff like that.
Like there's a Jimmy John's on the first floor?
Yeah, something like that. Or, a lot of these downtown Milwaukee, they've got a gym or something like that on the first floor I've seen. So I said, how many stories in the whole building? 4. So I mopped my brow, and then I went online to check because I don't do lending. I don't do the detail work every day. And when it comes to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, 25% of the total square footage of a condo project can be commercial. Okay, well, what if it had been a third? What if it was only a 3-story building? Then it would not have worked for Fannie Mae, but at this portfolio lender we have allows up to 33% of the total square footage to be commercial.
So you're saying condos can be more complicated?
They can be more complicated. Yes, they can. All right, David, what are we going to talk about when we come back?
Yeah, when we come back, we'll do a quick rate roundup, and then I want to talk about contingencies because those are the bust. With the Brewers reporting for spring training, I want to talk about the bases that we got to cover before you arrive at the closing table when we come back.
Right here on the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show on 620 WTMJ. If you have a question for Brian or David, you can reach us at 414-799-1620 or throughout the Midwest on the Accunet Mortgage toll-free talk line. That number's 1-800-877-1620.
Getting you into the home of your dreams. Here's more of the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show with Brian Wickert on 620 WTMJ.
Well, this week the Bucks announced that Oshkosh would be the home of their new development league team, but another city was vying for that same team. So how does Racine Mayor John Dickert feel about the decision? He'll talk about that and more during WTMJ Conversations coming up here at 11:07 this morning here on WTMJ. Brian Wickert and David Wickert are with us. Time to jump into the rate roundup.
Absolutely. So at the close of business on Friday, with 25% equity and all the other right stuff, which is a credit score of 740, a mortgage balance of $200,000, Accunet could deliver a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage at 3.99%, but it would cost you 0.6 of a point. The APR is 4.08, and that's a grand total closing cost of $2,300. If you prefer the no point option, 4.125% on the 30-year APRs, 4.17. I have just started to point this out in talking to people that a 7-year ARM is an interest rate of 3.625%.
Ooh, with how much in cost?
With just $500 in closing costs.
Oh my gosh! So if you're not going to be in the house for the whole time you own it,
yep,
maybe a 7-year ARM is for you.
The APR is 3.86, and then if you are in the camp of I want to get this thing paid off, maybe heading into retirement or just you've got the means that you want to pay aggressively, the 15-year fixed 3.375 APRs 3.43 with regular closing costs of $1,100. All right, so I got a question this week from a first-time home buyer. Right after we had put together the rock solid pre-approval, he was kind of just like, so what happens after I get an accepted offer?
Aha.
And
a flurry of activity.
Exactly, because I think people know that it's not just I show up at the closing table, but it's like, whoa, what happens in between I sign the line and I arrive at the closing table
with
right.
my sack full of money.
Exactly. So I just wanted to go through that again as folks are writing offers here at the start of the year.
Well, the most common, the first one in 99 and 44/100% of transaction is the home inspection contingency,
which I always point out, we mortgage guys do not require an inspection, but it's smart because you want to make sure that the roof's not falling off or the basement's not caving in.
Right. And I think that's commonplace now. I would say I don't, unless it's new construction.
But even then, I'm just saying there's no downside.
Yeah. I would say that's the only time that it would say, oh, hey, it's new construction and everything's going to be fine.
Well, and as you point out, you might want to give yourself more time on the inspection than you otherwise might think.
That's the critical reminder, is you might have 15 days to complete the inspection. And by the way, different states are different. In Florida and Illinois, it's like 5 days. And I'm thinking, do they have like an overabundance of inspectors or something? But in Wisconsin, it's very common to have at least 10, sometimes 15. But that is the entire time that you have to complete the initial inspection and any subsequent inspections. When I was helping your sister and Tim buy their home, we had a couple of situations where we needed to bring in a structural engineer because of the basement. Guess what? The general inspector said, this wall doesn't look right.
Yeah.
So then we have the contractual right as buyers to bring in a basement expert.
Could he come the next day?
He was, because I know him.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I know him. But, what if it's the height of summer season? Another one, roof inspectors. Boy, roofers are, guess what? Really busy in the summer.
Yeah.
And so you got to get that first general inspection done right away, in my opinion, so that you have time. Because there is no automatic extension of the home inspection.
The seller could just run the clock out.
Exactly. Could run the clock out. And if you don't, then throw your defect flag, you're out of time. And you lose the right to throw the flag. All right, what's the second one?
So second base is normally your appraisal contingency. And for folks who are getting financing, they include that appraisal contingency so that if the appraisal comes in $1 less than your agreed price, you do not have to proceed.
And our typical timing on that we see is 28 or 30 days, something like that, which is fine. And if you don't throw the flag by that time, if you don't have your appraisal back, and that deadline passes, you lose the right to complain. The appraisal comes in low, it's like, sorry, you can no longer throw that flag. Now, luckily, we have really good appraisal service at Accunet. Okay, and what's our... Oh, do we have to take another
I want
break?
to take a break before we talk about third base, but we'll talk about your financing contingency when we come back.
Right here on the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show on 620 WTMJ.
Don't just find a house, find your home. Here's more of the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show with Brian Wickert on 620 WTMJ.
And David Wickert as well.
So talking about the different bases of most offers and the contingencies between when you get that accepted offer and when you arrive at the closing table. First base was your inspection contingency. Second base was your appraisal contingency. Third base here is your financing contingency. So, unless you're writing a check to buy the house, you are protecting yourself in that financing contingency that you can make sure that if you can't line up the mortgage, you have a contractual out to not have to fulfill the obligation to purchase the home.
You can throw the flag and say, I couldn't get approved for the loan, I'm out. Then, by the way, the seller has the right to give you the mortgage, in case you never read that fine print.
Oh.
The seller can step up and say, yes, I'll make you that 5% down, $200,000 mortgage at 0.99%. Okay. Here's the money.
Wow.
And the other little asterisk, as you're describing that, if you were to say I'm a cash buyer, you actually have another typical contingency that you have to meet, which is within 7 days you have to prove to the seller that you really have the cash.
Show me the money.
Show me the money. Okay, but back to the norm.
Well, and so on this financing contingency, to tie back to your question on or topic about condos, I had a conversation with a gentleman, a home shopper, who raised a legitimate concern. He's like, well, what if I write to buy somebody's house, condo in 40 days, and then I find out on day 31 that the condo doesn't meet the criteria,
Fannie Mae criteria,
right? And it's a legitimate question, and part of my half answer to him was like, well, we don't know until we know, until
we have to get those bits of information. We have to get the condo questionnaire. We have to get because he was debating whether to put 10% or 5% down. Correct. So the answer that I would tell you to get back to him with is, sir, if you put 10% down, we will have a lot more certainty.
Correct.
Because then we get that light touch called a limited review from Fannie and Freddie. If you put 9.99% down or less, now we need all this documentation as long as our arm, and it's got to be analyzed.
Correct.
And we did have one earlier in the summer, I want to say it was August, where we did get all that stuff, and we had to deny the loan at the 11th hour. We even took it to the portfolio lender that's more liberal, because the association was not putting away 10% of their annual budget into a slush fund.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's just
that killed the deal.
We don't know until we know. So anyway, so third base is your financing contingency, and then we arrive at home plate.
The closing.
The closing.
And then you still have to have your money moved around in the right spot so that you can either wire it. Now, if you need $25,000 or more at closing in Wisconsin, you have to wire the money to the closing table, and to do that, you have to have it into an account that has a wiring capability.
It's funny. You were talking about the difference between 5 and 10% down on condos. I had a buyer this week debating that. They were buying a single family home, but debating that same question. And it was just interesting to, again, first-time home buyer was just trying to figure out what mattered more. The difference, because the difference in the down payment is $17,000.
Okay, so the difference between 5 and 10% down is $17,000.
Right, or the payment difference is $109. And if it's me, if it's David, I would rather keep the $17,000 in my pocket. But you had the wise comment that, well, just split the difference, make a 7.5% down payment.
If they're having trouble making the decision, but I just did the math, and it would take $100. You could literally take the $17,000, put it in the kitchen cupboard, and take out $109 a month to supplement your payment in a worst case scenario for 155 months.
That's north of 12 years.
Yeah, 13 years.
13 years.
12.9 years. So. And this couple happens to make a nice living. It's not like we're pushing them to the edge of their debt-to-income ratio or anything like that. So
no.
I would think that they might, in the end, go with the lower down payment. I bet they wrote their offer to purchase with 10% down.
Correct.
Because that looks more solid to the
strong
seller. But there's nothing, folks, that then prevents you from putting less money down. You don't have to follow the rules that you set forth in your offer to purchase. You just can't complain if you can't get approved for the 5% down.
Correct.
You can't throw your financing contingency flag. So, home buying season is fully upon us here. And
to your point on inventory on duplexes, it's a little thin. So if
it's thin everywhere, dude.
Well, I know, but I'm saying you got to be ready. If a good duplex comes on the market, you got to be ready to write swiftly and sweetly.
And surely.
Yes.
And that's where our rock solid fully verified guaranteed pre-approval comes in, because here's another competitive advantage, real estate agents who are out there. If you're working with one of our rock solid guaranteed buyers, we can close that loan in 30 days pretty easily. You can write a 25-day financing and appraisal contingency, and we can close that thing in 30 days.
Well, it's because we're starting on we're starting rounding second.
Right, because we've already documented their income, their down payment, and all that stuff.
Right.
I wouldn't do it on a condo where we have less than 10% down, just as an asterisk. But on a normal loan, if it's a single-family home with 3% down, we can close that in 30 days at low overhead Accunet Mortgage.
Yes.
All right, so hopefully rates stay calm. They're still pretty good.
Gyrating, I would say.
They are gyrating a little bit. And still time to take care of refinancing by clicking on the blue button at Accunet.com. We're helping a lot of people drop their FHA insurance or private mortgage insurance, because you don't even have to lower your rate to accomplish that refi maneuver. And then, of course, we are issuing lots of rock-solid guaranteed pre-approvals right now. we need more people to sell their homes. So if you're thinking about selling, get it out there now.
Get it out there.
Give somebody a break. Give them a nice home to buy. You'll sell it quickly. All right. That's all we've got for today, Steve. We'll see you back here same time next week.
The preceding was a paid program. Advice and opinions expressed during the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show are solely that of the hosts or guests of Accunet Mortgage and Accunet Realty Advisors and not WTMJ Radio or Scripps Media Incorporated.